and get the other aspect, and which is the next stop is Parliament, according to Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Cabinet Secretary, Interior and National Administration, on the deployment of Kenyan police officials to Haiti in the Caribbean island. And this comes following the United Nations Security Council approval of the international mission to be led by Kenya to restore normalcy, law and order in the country following the assassination in 2021 of the country's President Juvenile Moise. The country ever since then descended into violence, with gangs taking over 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Here's what Professor Kithure Kindiki said yesterday when he spoke in Kiambaa in the county of Kiambu.
Serikali kwanza itahakikisha tumepeleka ombi hilo katika bunge la Kenya kwa mujibu wa sheria ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo wabunge wa mabunge yote mawili mujitayarishe. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niwahakikishie watu ya Kenya, hii sio serikali ya shortcut. Uwe na wasiwasi. Tumejipanga vizuri. Bado tuko na matatizo kidogo kidogo ya kiusalama, lakini wale polisi ambao tutapeleka tutahakikisha kwamba hatutahujumu usalama wetu wa taifa.
Okay, and the next stop is where you, members of parliament, sit, and this is a crucial matter, and there are many questions that need answers from the executive as to how it will engage a country with no functioning government, apparently, and will be stating parts of the constitution to that effect, and the case in court challenging the proposed deployment of the Kenya police officials to the Caribbean country. And President William Ruto spoke about the matter last week on Monday, and we'll be getting to that soundbite shortly here on the broadcast, following the approval by the UN Security Council of the international mission that is set to be led by Kenya to restore normalcy and order and stability in the island nation in the Caribbean continent. Honorable Elizabeth Kailemia,
yes, a
big task awaits you parliamentarians, and the Kenyan people will be watching how you will be debating this, how you will vote for this, depending on your understanding, of course, of national security, foreign policy and diplomacy to that effect. But first, why do you think we need to deploy police to Haiti, in your view?
In my view, this is a UN directive, and we've gone to many other peacekeeping countries. Mm-hmm. This one, like you say, there's no specific government. Since you're a member of the UN Security Council, I was thinking that they suggested Kenyans to just go, like they always suggest, go to other African countries. I suppose that was the idea, but there's more to it. Of course, we look into it, even as parliamentarians. I heard my colleagues say that sometimes in Parliament, we don't vote from our consciences. We vote per the instructions, which is not true. I'm really surprised because I think everybody in Parliament there is over 18 and schooled. Yeah. Those influences, sometimes I wonder where they should happen. Maybe they will let us know. But about taking the police, I think there's more to be done. Let me put it that way. Yeah. Because we need to secure our people. We don't want them to go there and die and come back in boxes. So we will think about it and do whatever due diligence we have to do to make sure that if they happen to go, that they'll be safe. Okay.
There's the lacking element of the reciprocity needed from the host government, for example. And President Ariel Henry has been ruling since the assassination of his predecessor, Juvenile Moise. And how then does the UN Security Council resolution supersede the Constitution of Kenya, for example, which spells out that on the aspect of reciprocity of the country, which Haiti has not made, for that matter, on the application of the deployment of the Kenya police? Is it the UN Security Council resolution or the Constitution of Kenya first?
Obviously, the Constitution of Kenya comes first, and that's why the matter is being taken to Parliament. You know, of course, there is what we are saying, reciprocity of the two countries, or even the UN, but Kenya is sovereign. What Kenya says is what is going to happen, which will happen through the representatives of the people in the National Assembly. And
okay, because to the extent that sections, for example, Article 107, Honorable Mbui coming to you, 107, 108 and 109 of the National Police Service Act provides for the deployment of the Kenya Police Service under reciprocal arrangements with the reciprocating country, and these sections are very clear. I mean, who are we engaging? Is it a noble idea that we'll be going to Haiti without a legitimate government in place in Port-au-Prince?
Thank you, Ayub. First, Ayub, allow me to just mention the thing that the women rep has queried about what I said about Parliament being captured. On this particular Haiti matter, Ayub, I will tell you, watch the voting pattern of members of Parliament. And my colleague here, who says we are above 18, and we are able to reason for ourselves, we are intelligent, we are educated, which is true. Watch the voting pattern. Just like what they did with the finance bill. It won't matter how intelligent they are, a phone call only will make them do the wrong thing. They can, you know, and they will send these boys and girls to an early grave. You know, about 2 weeks ago, I asked in Parliament that we get a ruling on whether it is right for the government to be committing our officers to be taken out of the country without parliamentary approval. And I was told we'll get that response later. Up to now, I've never gotten that response. And it is interesting that the CS for Interior has said it in a public forum when I asked that question in Parliament, and I haven't gotten an answer. So that means that he's already directed now the troops in Parliament on what to do. I mean, it's in record, it's unanswered. 2 weeks ago, I actually asked that question. Are we going to stand as Parliament and observe what is happening, or do we have a role to play? Because even at that time, the defense CS had even signed an agreement, a defense agreement with I think the Secretary of Defense in the US.
Lloyd Austin III.
Yes. And we said, look, it's important. Why would things be happening out there that we are not getting involved in? We cannot be bystanders on what is happening in Kenya. Now, Article 240, which establishes the National Security Council, also clearly in Part 8 says that the Council has the mandate to actually deploy forces outside the country, but with the approval of Parliament. And that is what I was interested in, and that is what was being ignored. But then let me go back to the issue of our Kenya, and Kenyans sending forces out there. Unfortunately, Ayub, we seem to look like we are a puppet of another nation. It's unfortunate to say this, but that is what is happening out there. In all the demonstrations, Kenya is being called a puppet. Because what business does Kenya really have in dealing with issues of insecurity in Haiti? Have we sorted out our insecurity issues in this country first? I mean, because you know how you would expect that a country that has managed to have security, contain the security situation in their own borders, would then therefore be asked to lead such an onslaught. But in Kenya, we have issues, border issues in Sondu. We have issues of bandits and cattle rustling in Kapedo. We have issues of terror attacks in Lamu. We have issues of muggings, housebreakings, carjackings all over the city. There are parts of the city you can't walk in the evening. I mean, the reality is that we haven't sorted out our own security issues. So for Kenya to be asked to go and lead, such a mission, I think there are some sinister motives behind it. I don't think that we should send our troops there. And I'll tell you this, Ayub, okay, they cannot even speak the local language. How do you want to send Kenyans there? First thing, you have to send them to school to go and learn how to speak the language, then now deploy them there. I mean, we are just sending these people to an early grave because somebody somewhere in the Kenya Kwanza administration stands to benefit, because I know there's all these goodies that the US is going to throw our way. But the reality is this: we have an issue even on the ratio of police to civilians. We haven't even reached the target. Why would we then take 1,000 policemen? Some of my colleagues in the Azimio side don't even have personal security, which is allowed in law. But some of our leaders don't even have their security. Then we are taking officers to go to be massacred in Haiti because of other people's issues.
And when it comes to Parliament, Honorable Nabi, I'll come to you. When it comes to Parliament, Honorable Robert Mbui, you are the Deputy Minority Whip.
Leader.
Deputy Minority Leader. And you have a responsibility to whip your members from the Azimio coalition to oppose if you want, as you have made your submissions here. on this matter, how diligent will you undertake that exercise? Because this matter will come before Parliament, which is a guardrail before this exercise takes off in earnest.
Ayuba, I'll say that the sentiments I've expressed are my own personal sentiments. We are going to sit as a coalition and engage with our leaders and agree on a common ground. And that will be based on what is right for the nation. Once we make that decision, then we can work together and see how we can deal with it at the floor of the House. But I want to ask that every member try and reason out this issue at their own perspective, because I wouldn't want my young brother to be sent to a foreign country to go die when he could be here defending Kenyans. And he would be able to defend Kenyans, get the same salary, and run and manage his family. So I think for me, it's a big no. But coalition issues, we shall deal with them when we get there. Okay,
Honorable Nabina Bwera, I mean, you this morning carried the Constitution, and it's very, the dictates are very clear of Katiba on the deployment processes of the National Police Service. There must be a measure of reciprocity. We have seen the UN Security Council meet in New York, make the decision, approve the mission to be led by Kenya. But apparently there's no legitimate government in Haiti. So who are we engaging? Are these questions that you will point out at the floor of the House at the best interests of the Kenyan public, of what the Constitution demands of you, parliamentarians?
Yes, Ayub. You know, sometimes I ask myself, where did the rain start beating us? Do you know that this issue of Haiti, us deploying police to Haiti, came up during the president's visit to the US? And that Biden, the US president, came out to congratulate the president as if Biden is the president of Haiti. You know? And you know something which people don't know is that this thing is being presented as if Kenya is going to lead an international force deployed under the UN peace mission. That's not what it is. Mm-hmm. This is an arrangement like the 2007 arrangement in Somali. And you know what happened in Somali in the 2007 when the US led some forces. Kenya will be overseeing some forces. And we have not been told up to today how many countries have agreed to also send their forces, which will be overseen by, but not a UN mission.
Because there's already a UN mission there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You understand? And now, three things that people need to know, as Mbuya said, as we go to parliament, as even parliamentarians, that this country is 11 million people. 5.5, over 5.5 live below poverty line.
Half of the country depends on aid.
That is where we are going. Where we are taking 1,000 people, already 3,000 cases of homicide have been reported this year. 1,500 kidnappings for ransom.
The highest in the world.
Ever in the history of the world. Most interestingly, the people controlling the gangs have already warned Kenya that please, we are waiting for you. You will go back in coffins. And I look at our police and look, America is next to that place.
200 kilometers there.
Why can't it has more sophisticated weapons, it has more sophisticated technology, it has all the money. Why hasn't it gone to restore order? Why does they want to use blacks, Africans, Kenyans as guinea pigs in this? I mean, reason must prevail. I was reading something when I was away that was very interesting. That out of this, the American government intends to give Kenya 14 billion shillings. So what? Even if they were to give us 50 billion. So what? We cannot we cannot exchange our Kenyan blood with silver. No.
And fundamentally, there are many questions. I'll come to you, Honorable Elizabeth. But Honorable Nabi Nabuera, I mean, Haiti has a long history of failed international efforts. And there are fears that the international force that Kenya is leading might end up antagonizing the very same people it went to liberate, for example. And listen to what the former U.S. Special Envoy for Haiti, who was as well the former Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince, Daniel Foote, said that there is politicization of the gangs by the political class, that they are operating with impunity, they have infiltrated the police, and the current Prime Minister who took over after the assassination of President Moise raised the fuel subsidy, which is the cause of the protest by the gangs. He is illegitimate in the eyes of the gangs, and a majority of them. And there are fears that this force that Kenya will go into lead is likely going to prop up a dictator who, in the eyes of many Haitians, is unlikely going to be fighting for them, because the Prime Minister wasn't elected, one, delayed the elections, disbanded the Electoral Council, extended his mandate for 2 years, dismissed the Chief Prosecutor in September, replaced the country's Justice Minister. There's no parliament, there are no legislators.
The political anthropology of Haiti is very basic, like it was in Somalia for sure. I'll tell you this. The political anthropology is such that the Haitians have a phobia for foreigners. And therefore, what this means, even now the gangs are going to get support from the ordinary citizen, because they look at that as invasion. And therefore, even the police force, which is already existing in Haiti, is going to fight, is likely to fight on the side of the gangs. So how will we succeed? In fact, many of the political groups in Haiti have asked this question: are the Kenyan-led forces coming to arrest the acting president? That's the question they're asking. That we hope that these forces are coming to arrest an illegitimate president. Now, when people have that kind of political matrix, my brother, I can only see doom. And I'm going to ask my colleagues, including the two of them who I have here, that reason must prevail. We cannot exchange blood for silver.
Okay, Honorable Elizabeth.
Yes.
Talk to me about the real goal that we are going to achieve here.
Even listening from Mheshimiwa Nabi, reason must prevail. The truth be told, even I doubt whether our police force are really trained for that kind of mission. Already here we're having a lot of problems with our own security. So, and there I think is very emotive. It's a lot of war, even from the citizenry. They feel like he says, what are they coming to do? Are they coming, there's a lot of uncertainty there. So my opinion is, let's take time to think. I don't think it's wise in this time, I must say, for our police force to just walk in a strange land. Like we said, they talk French. They have no clue of the language. So the operations may be quite difficult. So let's reason this time around.
Okay. Honorable Robert Mbui, the question here is the accountability. And Kenyans want answers. And because I wonder what we are going to achieve in Haiti, in the sense that the interventions, foreign-led interventions, started in 1915. And largely the political elite in Haiti is seen as the problem here, because they control the ports in Haiti, they fund the gangs. And in 1915, Haiti started calls for foreign interventions. In there was the U.S. intervention for 20 years. In 2004, up until now, there is a UN mission. That's about 19 years. The justice system is not functional. No military assistance, no reforms in the education sector, no roads or infrastructure built. What can we achieve as an international mission that Kenya is going to lead for 9 months, that the UN failed for 19 years to address the issues of importance to the Haitian people. And then, of course, that is further to assessment. What can we achieve in 9 months that the UN failed in 19 years?
I doubt, other than maybe what my colleague has said, shed blood of our own people. You know, my understanding of what's going on in Haiti is also that these are people that are politically disenfranchised. Because as much as we talk about democracy all over, they've reached a point where in the last elections, I think only 20% of Haitians voted. And the person who's purportedly won, because there's constant election rigging in that country, somehow managed to get 35% out of 20% voters. I mean, that by itself is really an issue. So I think there's a lot of disenfranchisement by the people. There's demonstrations, of course, like you've said, because their livelihoods are not being taken care of. They have had a history, like you said, actually from 18-something up to now, where there is always foreign intervention and there's always foreign. They feel like as if they're being colonized continuously by people from outside coming to take over their country. So I think for me, I think these people are kind of fighting for their independence. And the best thing we could do is not to go and take arms there. Let us send the people who can diplomatically try to discuss with them to find a solution. Because let me tell you, this fighting and killing of people is not going to help anything. It's not going to sort out anything. I have been wondering, could the Kenya police be sent? Because recently when we had our demonstrations because of the high cost of living, they clobbered us with batons, shot us with live bullets, and all we had to defend ourselves was our feet as we could run, and some few young men could pick up stones and throw at them. Might they feel that Kenya succeeded very well in clamping down on demonstrators, that they feel that these are the people that are, maybe ready to go and tackle those criminal gangs? Let me say, I will not call them criminal gangs. I will call them defenders of their country. But these people in Haiti are properly armed. They are not like the Azimio demonstrators. So police in Kenya, if you feel that there is any attempt to send you there, find a way to refuse and even send petitions to us so we can defend you.
Okay, well, Honorable Nabi, before we take the feedback, what then do you think informs the perception that Kenya and the current international peace efforts in Haiti will be the magic pill to the problems where the world powers have failed and largely so unceremonious exits from Afghanistan in 2021, trillions of dollars spent over a 20-year period. In 2003, Iraq, and then pulled out in 2011, sectarian violence thereafter, the political vacuum in the aftermath of Saddam Hussein, the de-Baathification largely done by American technocrats, and also in Libya, where President Obama had regretted over the no-fly zone imposed by NATO. I mean, what will come out of Haiti, in your view, if they have failed in past exercises?
What will come out of Haiti are three things. One, that America will be just thumping on the world stage that they were able to mobilize third world countries, because they have looked at the countries that are already donating, Bermuda, some funny small countries in the world. They will be just thumping that they are controlling some stake in the international market. Secondly, that we will have lost so many Kenyans. If Parliament doesn't stop the deployment, we will lose so many Kenyans. And thirdly, we will have proven the case that we are a puppet of the Americans. A very sad story indeed. You know, Ayub, there is one principle in any military kind of operation: language of communication. Okay. That small thing is French speaking. We are not French speaking. That small thing, there is a language barrier in Haiti. But that country is very sophisticated in terms of terrorism, in terms of gangsterism. And therefore, you need a sophisticated system to deal with it. And if the Americans really have failed, what makes Kenya believe that they can succeed where the Americans have failed? But more importantly, what the woman rep here said, we can't deal with a situation. We cannot even foresee Sondu. We can't foresee, so that stop it to happen. It happens, we can't deal with it. We cannot foresee Lamu. We are now talking about publishing. I saw Kindiki saying he's going to publish names of people who are. If you know them, go arrest them, bring them, please put them in detention camps. Don't tell us we will publish names. If we can't do that, then how do we deal with Haiti?
Thank you.
Where we don't have any knowledge, we don't have any information.
And where apparently, according to the United Nations, there's no government. I mean, who are
There's no government. I mean, it is free for all, my friend. You come there, I get you, I stab you, I kill you, I take what you...
Okay, thank you. Let's sample the feedback and get the last comments. Here's what you're saying on Twitter, on X, formerly Twitter. And Brian Chemwa says, politics of shares erodes trust in government institutions and hinders economic development, as resources are often misallocated for political gain rather than being used for the betterment of the entire population. The deputy president, he means here, should avoid such sentiments. Godi Barasawere says the politics of shares is ongoing, a trend across all spheres of leadership, business and interaction. It's only that the deputy president spoke about it, and that's why there is an uproar over it. But shareholding is a norm in Kenyan politics. Charlo Wood Rossi says President Ruto is a Kenyan president and not a regional president. All the regions have constitutional rights to fill the presidency. Development should be spread equally without biases. Utterances by the deputy president is uncalled for. Rami Butia says, it's amazing how we allow our little differences, especially in politics, to divide us as people. Thereby, we miss the bigger picture of our joint strength in unity and singleness of purpose to accomplish the impossible for posterity. Ayo Madina says, I don't understand why the deployment of Kenyan police to Haiti was approved by the United Nations, he means the Security Council here, before it was approved by Parliament. Shouldn't it be vice versa? Babu Michelle K says, I'm afraid that even if deploying our police officers to Haiti was a bad idea, it will simply pass in Parliament since the Kenya Kwanza MPs plus rebel MPs make the majority. This will just be for formality purposes and nothing else. Let's wait, he says, according to the last viewer there. Final comments, Honorable Elizabeth.
Thank you, Ayub, for inviting me this morning. Kenyans, I would like to address Kenyans. Even the members of parliament, all of us is a reflection of our society. So that's why when Mheshimiwa Nabii said we were accused, I mean the voters are the ones who are making these members of parliament. When it comes to changing minds, you are in this party and then you change to the other. It's just what we are in our society. So I think what I would request all of us to do is just to think seriously. Because most of the time we vote emotionally, we don't look at who that person is. The other day somebody told me politics is not a profession.
Thank you.
That means it's anybody anyhow, But I would also request my colleagues that we be serious.
Thank you.
With our mandate as members of representatives of the people.
Okay, hold on briefly, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just say that from what is happening, I notice that His Excellency William Samoei Ruto opposed the Constitution in 2010. But it was promulgated, and now he has taken an oath to defend it. So let him defend it and put to a stop this continuous talk of dividing Kenyans and uniting only two regions at the expense of all the rest of us. We are also taxpayers.
Okay, yes, Honorable Nabii.
Mine is basic, to remind the Deputy President and those who share his thinking that we pay taxes equally, and because we pay taxes equally, we must, given the Constitution, benefit from all the government resources, including appointments. Nasi tafadhali. That is the Constitution.
Thank you. Honorable Nabii Naboira is the MP Lugari constituency. Thank you for your time on Daybreak this morning. Honorable Elizabeth Kailemia is the woman MP representing Meru County. Thank you for your time. And as well, Robert Mbui, who is the Kadiani lawmaker with us in studio. Your time is all appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. Up next is Sporty Monday, and Africa's fastest man, Ferdinand Omanyala, will be with the team that's coming up next with Sporty Monday. And it wasn't a smooth sail for the Red Devils, Manchester United. At Old Trafford, Zita Jimoy and Fred Arocho have a legroom for breathe aside to that effect of the last-minute 2 goals by Scott McTominay. And of course, Steve Shitera's team, the Blues, are off from the second page of the league to the first page, some relief at the Bridge in West London. And the glorious Gunners at the Emirates, after overcoming Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, the English and the European champions. And condolences to that effect to Sam Gituku. And to the other organic Arsenal, former Manchester United fans who have crossed over because of the injection of the money to the blue side of Manchester. Thanks for watching Daybreak and waking up with us here on the broadcast. Sporty Monday is up next, and we'll see you on Wednesday here on the broadcast. Good morning.